Now here's a question for you. Can a new tax signed into law by a president turn the lives of tens of thousands of people upside down? The answer is short and sweet: yes. According to a report released by GM in May 2025, Trump's new automotive tariffs will cost General Motors alone $5 billion this year. This isn't just a simple loss. Cuts to R&D budgets, layoffs, production halts, supply chain collapses. It all came one after another. Let's take a closer look at this complex situation together. How did the crisis begin? What were the economic impacts? How were people affected? And how far did this issue extend to other countries? We'll cover it all in detail. At the end of the video, I'll ask you a question. Do you think this crisis was the result of the right decisions or a major strategic mistake? It all began in April 2025 with the automobile tariffs imposed by the Trump administration. This 25% import tax was applied to both vehicles and spare parts. For GM, this meant rethinking nearly its entire production structure, because on average, 40% of the vehicles GM produces are made from imported parts. So no matter what you do, you can't escape this tariff. CEO Mary Barra wrote in a letter to shareholders, "This decision will cost us between $4 and $5 billion." This statement sent shockwaves through Wall Street. At the same time, leaked documents revealed that R&D funds allocated for Ultium battery production had been cut. Shortly thereafter, the Factory Zero facility in Detroit halted production, citing a decline in demand, and 200 workers were sent home. However, internal whispers suggested that the real reason was rising production costs. In short, the first phase of this crisis for GM not only disrupted production, but also shook the company's strategic direction. The crisis GM is experiencing has spread like dominoes throughout the industry. 700 night shift workers at the Oshawa plant were laid off. Bright Drop van production in Ingersoll was halted until October, sending another 200 people home. 2 supplier factories in Tennessee closed completely, leaving 400 unionized workers unemployed. But the issue is not just GM. These tariffs have also hit the entire automotive value chain. For example, the price of a steering wheel part jumped from $28 to $36. While this may seem small, each vehicle produced by GM consists of an average of 30,000 parts. Even small price increases can add up to significant costs. Wall Street hasn't ignored this situation either. GM's market expectations have been lowered by 18%, and in an environment where inflation is still not fully under control, such production costs are also reflected in consumer prices. The result? More expensive vehicles, declining sales, and eroding confidence. In short, this crisis threatens not just GM, but the entire American automotive market. What about the human side of the story? Here, the picture becomes even more dramatic. Small restaurants in Michigan are seeing a 40% drop in revenue due to lost customers. A small auto repair shop in Indiana says, "If this continues for another month, I'll lose half my staff." Temporary layoffs, known as elastic idling, result in a 75% pay cut for workers, but this support is short-lived. Workers are wondering how they will pay their car payments, mortgages, and children's school expenses. Unions are also divided on this issue. On one side are those who say, "American jobs come first," and on the other are those calling for, "Don't sacrifice Canadian workers." Worker morale is at rock bottom. Everyone remembers the 2019 Lordstown closure. What was then called a temporary closure became permanent. And now, many GM workers feel the same scenario is looming. Toolboxes are waiting by the door at the factory. People go to work every day fearing, "Will it be my turn today?" This crisis is not just economic. It has turned into a full-blown political fault line. While the UAW president praised Trump's tariffs as finally a policy that prioritizes American workers, Lana Payne, the leader of the Canada-based Unifor Union, accused GM of selling out Canadian workers for a political show. Some workers in Tennessee initially supported the tariffs, but now voices demanding, "Enough with these tariffs already," are growing louder. Because for someone struggling to pay the bills, nationalism isn't very satisfying. This division is weakening the union's power. Instead of solidarity, there is silence. Moreover, Trump's statement that GM made its own decisions and must accept the consequences has further angered the workers. This political climate is likely to become even more intense before the election. Here, we must ask the question again. Are we really protecting American jobs, or are we losing them right before our eyes? The impact of tariffs is crossing borders. The Stellantis factory in Canada has been operating with uncertain shifts for 12 weeks. This situation has affected an additional 900 workers in Indiana and Michigan. Volvo is preparing to lay off 1,000 people at its facilities in Pennsylvania and Virginia. The reason? Truck prices have skyrocketed from $165,000 to $180,000 because parts costs have soared. GM's South Korean factory is nearly collapsing. 88% of its production goes to the U.S., but with a 25% tariff, this is no longer sustainable. If access to battery raw materials from China becomes difficult, Ultium production could come to a complete halt. Hyundai and Kia want to increase production in Alabama and Georgia, but new factories won't be operational until 2027. In short, if this crisis isn't stopped before it turns into a global collapse, the automotive industry could face one of the biggest restructurings of the 21st century. GM management is working on 3 possible scenarios. According to the optimistic scenario, cable systems from Brazil and engine supplies from Mexico will be back on track by the end of June. Production lines will then resume operations in July. EV production will be maintained at 65,000 units, and the company's margins will remain positive, albeit small. In the middle ground scenario, things get more complicated. New tariffs on electronic parts from Japan and Korea take effect in July. No solution is reached in Washington. Credit ratings decline, and investor confidence is severely shaken. In the pessimistic scenario, China restricts exports of rare earth elements. Production of Ultium batteries would come to a complete halt. All North American facilities would be plunged into darkness. GM would be dragged into debt, and workers would be left in uncertainty. The reality is that the factors determining which of these 3 paths we take are not just economic, they also include politics, consumer demand, and international trade balances. Well, now it's your turn. Looking at the whole picture, do you think GM can get out of this crisis? Are tariffs really protecting American workers, or is it a backfiring strategy? Is the electric vehicle revolution being crushed under tariffs? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you were in GM's shoes, what would you do? Which scenario do you feel closer to? Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video because your support is essential for us to produce more content like this. See you in the next video.